Hello BookTube, hello Tutorverse, and hello and a special welcome to all the people who joined because Steve Donahue told you to. He has been absolutely wonderful and welcoming me to this corner of BookTube, even tagging me in my very first tag experience, which forever after, I will have to admit, was the book Snobbery tag. So thank you, Steve. Question one, what is your definition of snobbery? I see that as using books, using your reading habits to make yourself seem better than someone else. There's an element of comparison and an element of lording it over someone in there. So that's my basic definition. Two, is there a genre or type of book you would never consider reading, such as, would you ever read a romance? Or if you regularly read romance, would you ever try a science fiction novel? There's very little that I don't read. I actually find I don't write enough romance, and I say that because I used to. I haven't in a while, and I tried to write one, and because I don't read enough there, I messed it up pretty badly. Putting that aside, alternative history, and that's more a tutor snob thing than a book snob thing, because alternative history is just not accurate. I tried to read Elizabeth Tudor Vampire Slayer, and it was well written, it was exciting, it was all of the things it was supposed to be, but it just wasn't realistic enough for me. So take that with a large grain of salt. Question three, does erotica count as literature? Yes, absolutely. Literature, books, it's about story and language. Now, a little bit of context, my mother was a first grade teacher in the South Bronx, and the thing that was her determination and her point of pride was that every one of her students in her, I don't even know how many years she taught because she would lie about her age consistently, every single one of her students left her classroom knowing how to read. So reading itself was very much pushed, and my attitude is that anything that gets people, adults, to read is fair game. It is literature. So erotica, yes. Besides, I have a couple of friends who write erotica, and I know that they take a lot of care in writing it. So on the writing side, it's equally writing. As much as it's reading, it's also equally writing. So yes. Is it better to read classic books than popular bestsellers? This is a little bit of a tough one. And I don't want to say that it's because of any kind of value judgment, but at the same time, classics are things that have stood the test of time. There was, I think it was like a business, like Warren Bennis book, where the advice was don't read anything, including newspapers, that's not at least 50 years old, because you want to give the words time to stand the test of time. And I wouldn't go that far. Popular bestsellers are fun. So are classics sometimes. So I think it might be getting back to the better, because there is a bit of a value judgment there. You know, is it better to read good books than bad books? Yes, but the classics are not necessarily. This is muddling, and this is where, you know, the little Snob-O-Meter is going up. That said, there are a lot of popular bestsellers that I believe are going to be classics. So again, whatever is getting you to the page is wonderful. 5, Have you ever bragged about reading a classic in order to sound smart? No, but I will clap back if somebody tries to use a classic against me, especially if they're wrong. My problem is mainly the inverse. I went to French school and they pushed classics, not the whole thing, because you really can't do quite that much to kids. They would give you excerpts of basically everything through there. So I have a very good foundation on the classics. Then I got to college, continued reading. That was my big romance, sci-fi streak. And then law school hit. And I read mainly law books. And then I got out and was working a gajillion hours and didn't read that much. And then I left the law and had kids, and I read mainly children's books. So there was a good 20 years where I didn't read a lot of the stuff that was out. So, you know, that's my kind of issue. There's a lot to catch up to. 6, do audiobooks count as reading? What about comic books or graphic novels? Okay. Steve Donahue defines reading as engaging with a text without an intermediary. He's right. Steve is always right. But because I come at this from a slightly different perspective, in terms of what all of this is, I see reading more as a delivery mechanism than the lawyer is back. I was a lawyer for a while. I come at this as a parent, and as I went to French school, I made my kids go to French school, and getting them to read anything, to listen to audiobooks, or at that time it was just me reading to them, or comic books, graphic novels, anything like that, help them to immerse themselves in the language and help them acquire the language. You know, I mean, I would go even further. When they were taking Spanish, we would listen to Spanish radio driving home from school. That's not reading. but again, it's really about immersing yourself in language. And finally, I come at it as a writer, which is that I want people to read my stuff. I don't care how you consume it, just read it. So I did do Jane as an audiobook. One reviewer told me most people liked it, but one person told me I didn't do any favors reading it myself. Nothing proved. We'll have professionals doing it. But yeah, any graphic artists out there, I'll license a comic book. Question 7. Have you ever looked down at someone for reading a popular fluff book, a book with little substance to it, for example, a self-help book or celebrity memoir? I have to confess, I was in this wonderful book club when I was in LA, and the members used to, we all had to pick books, you know, once or twice a year, and the other members would pick, amazing, like really incredible books. One of my favorite, Clara and the Sun, and I was the one who was choosing the Wendy Holden every time it was my turn. It's like, first we did the Royal Governess, we did the Duchess, we did the Princess, and it was the fun stuff. So no, I've never looked down on anyone for doing that. Have you ever been, question 8, have you ever been the recipient of someone else's snobbery? I don't remember. I know I must have been. I know we've all been the recipient of someone else's snobbery. There's snobbery in this world. It's all around us. If it doesn't annoy me, then I don't really remember it. And even if it does annoy me, I try to let things go. So I must have been, but I just don't remember. There's actually more snobbery in the Tutorverse than there is in the reading side, where people, it's like, well, who wrote that? You know, that you're quoting, and, you know, people are like, I find David Lodes far more insightful than David Starkey. And of course the famous, you know, you can't read Philippa Gregory. I like Philippa Gregory. It's kind of my guilty pleasure. I have an issue with some of her books because she doesn't like Elizabeth, and it shows in the way she writes. And so there are a couple of books of hers that I have trouble with, but I generally like that. 9, would you ever be friends with a snob? Maybe you already are. We all have our faults. Question 10. Are people who don't read less sophisticated than people who do? Given that I have tied reading to language and story, how could they not be? Okay, the whole point is read to open your mind, open the world, blah, blah, blah. I'm preaching to the choir, but yes, so that's an easy one. And then question 11, measure yourself. Based on your answers to the previous 10 questions, would you qualify as a book snob? So I would say no. The fact that I do consider readers more sophisticated kind of weighs against that no. And the other piece that worries me is the fact that there's this thing in poker, or in basically a poker, where if you sit down at a table to play and you look around and you don't see the patsy, you're the patsy. So the fact that I'm sitting here going, I don't see any book snobs. I don't know any book snobs. I don't think I'm a book snob, but if I don't see any others, then maybe I am, but I don't think I am. And finally, question 12, tag some people. If you're watching this and you would like to do this, please consider yourself tagged. I am very new to BookTube. The people who I know on BookTube are the people who've already done this, and I will get to tagging people. I'm just not there yet. So please tag yourselves, and thank you. Bye. Yeah, my remote doesn't work. I'll see you soon.